All right, want to welcome everybody around the world. Welcome to our live webcast today. We're doing a webcast on the path to making the images you really want to make. So welcome everybody. I know we have a lot of people tuning in from around the world. Also helping me out today in the studio is Mr. Eric Kuna.
Hey, Scott, joining you from about 20 miles down the street, 15 miles down the
Yeah,
street.
I'm at home. Eric's at home. Everyone's home. We're kind of set up our new broadcasting facilities here so we can all maintain maximum social distance. I think 20 miles is pretty good, don't you
Yeah,
think?
we're pretty good.
I don't think you're
Yeah.
really 20 miles. You're more like 7 miles.
No, yeah, well, how far is it to the office?
I don't know. It takes me 18 minutes.
18 minutes.
Or
Yeah,
now,
okay, we'll call it 12
5
miles.
seconds.
12 miles.
All right. Well, anyway, we're glad you guys are here. So today's webinar is we've been doing these series of webinars, and the webinars that we've been doing are really they are based on a first the whole webinar series that we've been doing is based on we're stuck inside. We're photographers with limited things that we can shoot. So we wanted to take these Kelby One member webcasts and make them open to everyone. So if there's someone right now that you think would benefit from this photography webinar today, go tweet them or send them an email or text because they can just come and join. You can watch us in a variety of places, but if you don't know where to go to my Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/skelby. If you're a Kelby One member, you already got a link of where you can go and watch it. But if you just want to just get on and watch it and be able to comment, you can just go to my Facebook page. Again, it's facebook.com/skelby. So it's my first initial, my last name. It looks like Skelby, but that's me. So drop and see that.
Scott, one of the things like right now, we got tons of people jumping into the chat. I see tons of people getting in the Facebook stream all over the place. But I will echo what Scott says. I know what Scott's going to talk about today, and this is a very important thing for photographers to understand. It's like the one thing that I think a lot of times where we put certain things ahead in photography, and Scott's going to talk about like what are those things that we really need to focus on with our photography. So if you have that friend who's always wondering, hey, how do I make great photos? This would be a great time to share this link, have them tune in, have them check it out, because what Scott's talking about is going to really, this is one of those main topics in photography.
All right. Well, thank you, Eric. Okay, so if you guys are ready to get to work, let's go ahead. So I started this series actually on my blog about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the headline I wrote on my blog was, come on a journey with me about your photography. So it's really about kind of discovering what it is that you really like, which, believe it or not, is a hard thing for a lot of people. And then actually, what's the path for me to make that type of photo? And I think that you'll be surprised that the path isn't going to be camera settings or gear. There's a different path to get you to where you want to go. And I think that most of us think, oh, well, I could make great pictures if I had a better camera body, or if I had a mirrorless, or this is based on what you already have now. You can still make the kind of images that you want to make. But I think the first part of this, and this is what I talked about on my blog, was I think if you ask photographers, like, all right, what kind of images do you want to make? They have a vague idea. They're kind of like, well, I want to make really, really, cool images and great images, but specifically what kind? And that's where a lot of people get stuck. Well, they go, well, what do you mean by specifically? I want you to turn that vague idea into an actual concrete idea. And that's what we're going to try to do today. That's really kind of the basis of what we're going to do. And so I'm going to give you some things to do. Now, this webcast is archived. You can watch it here on Facebook, or if you're a Kelby One member, you can watch it online. So you can access this later. But I'm going to give you a series of things to do. Some of them you'll be able to do maybe right now while you're watching. Others you'll have to do later, but you can come back and watch this and do it together. So the first thing that I would tell you is, if you really want to go from having a vague idea of the kind of photos you want to a very, very concrete idea, start on Instagram. Go to Instagram, and I know you already have an Instagram account, but there are some of you that don't. Just go sign up for it. It's free. So go sign up for an Instagram account. Because if not, you're going to spend it will take you 5 times as long to do this on the internet as it will on Instagram, because all of the great photos are already on Instagram. So go to Instagram, get the Instagram app for your phone or whatever. Okay. And what you're going to do once you're on Instagram is you're going to go find other people's images. You're going to go and find the type of images that you want to be making, right? So for those of you who read my blog, you've probably already done this, or you thought of doing it. Well, you can do it while we're talking, but that's it. Go find. So let's say that you're a travel photographer or whatever. You would go to Instagram and type in the search term travel. So hit the little magnifying glass, type in travel. Here comes all these images. And when you see the kind of image that you go, man, I would kill to make that image. That's the kind of image I want to make. Make a screen capture of that image. Just make a screen capture so it's saved to your phone. Now, like on an iPhone, you would press, well, on the iPhone, I have an iPhone X. You just press the side button and the top button, press them together, and it makes a screen capture. That's it. It brings it up in the left-hand corner, and you can say save image. All right, that's it. Make a screen capture of the image. How many images should you go and find? Well, I mean, the more the merrier, but I would think 10 to 20 images. If you can find 10 to 20 images that are the exact type of images that you want to make. Now, you may have multiple genres of photography that you do. You may say, well, like me, I do sports, I do people, and I do travel. Those are my main ones: sports, people, and travel. And sometimes I'll do aviation, and sometimes I'll do automotive photography. But I think my main 3 genres are those with a side of aviation and automotive. All right. So I went and did this. I went and said, wait, who are some of the photographers? So I went and typed in fashion and people, and I typed in sports and all. And there were some people I already knew that I already liked their stuff, and I'm following them already on Instagram, so it was easy for me. So I'll show you one photographer. Well, here's what I did for people. I cheated. I went to at Profoto USA, right? Because if you guys have ever watched our show, The Grid, they run a commercial that is so inspiring. It is, they don't even do anything. They don't try to sell you. They don't even mention the name of their lights. It's a 2-minute commercial, and it's just inspiration. It's epic music and epic stuff. So I figured they got to have great photos. And I went there and they did. This is one that I loved immediately. All right. I believe it. I believe that's Jennifer Lopez. I think it's Jennifer Lopez. I suspect that it is. You can't see that though. Okay, there we go. All right. Now, so I think this particular shot, I just thought, wow, I would love to be able to make that kind of photo. And I went and looked up the photographer. His name is John Russo Photo, and he's very, very, very good. And so I look at him, he's got, covers of all these big magazines and all these celebrity shots. And when I look at him, I'm like, yep. That's the kind of photos I want to be making. I want to make all of his photos, but that one was the first one that caught my eye. Now, this was at Profoto's website. And what they had done was they had picked some of their favorite shots from 2019. They said, here's some highlights from 2019, and one of John Russo's photos was in there. So that's where you saw that screen capture. Now, we'll talk more about that later, but that was one that, for me, was like, ooh, I just like his style, and we'll break that down in a minute. Next, another one was somebody I've been following for a couple of years. Absolutely, I think the #1 best football photographer out there, and it is the Vikings photographer, right? I think the Vikings photographer, his name's Andy. Everybody takes great action pictures. If you shoot football, you're going to get a moment where you got a great action, and he does. He's got tons of great action photos. But let me tell you, his game day photos and the things surrounding football to me are so strong, and that it makes him stand out as a football photographer. Like the way he composes and the moments that he gets, and like just that shot that I just saw, of the player walking in, and he's let the background completely blow out to white, and you've got the Vikings logo there on the ground, and it looks like a moment. He is so good at that, and I've admired his work. And it's funny because I talk to other photographers, and they're like, oh, who do you like in football? And they're like, oh, Andy for the Vikings. Oh, my gosh, he's the greatest. So to me, he is literally one of, if not the best. I don't want to call him just a football photographer, because he's more than that. He's a team photographer. So he's the team photographer for the Vikings. But the way he covers the story just, wow, gets it for me. All right. Another person. Now, this is not only someone that I follow, but a friend. And I saw this photo of his, Larry Grace. So Larry Grace runs the International Society of Aviation Photography, the ISAP, of which I'm a member. And I love these shots where you've got the vapor trails coming off the planes and stuff. And I'm like, wow. And I saw that and I'm like, that's the kind of shot I want to make. It's crisp and it's nice and tight and it's very, very sharp and it's really nicely processed. And I love the vapor trails. And I'm like, okay, that's another one. And this is him. You should definitely follow him at Larry Grace Photo. All right. Next, and this I'm going to guess this next one you're already following him. Daniel Corden. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. Daniel, mm-hmm. Right, Eric? Mm-hmm. His stuff is that next level landscape and travel stuff. It is literally that, like, and he has a great tone. If you look at his images, they all have a commonality of the post-processing and the style. And like, look at all those photos from his Instagram account, but they all look different. Like they look the same. They're all different places. Like one's in like Russia and one's in South Korea. I mean, they're all over the place. And one's in like Italy, but they just share a commonality. All right. So I went through and I got some of those, right? So once you've got those, you're going to start on the journey. That's the step one. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with but one step. You just took step one. Get those images. This is a fun exercise, and it's going to stretch you because you're going to have to make a decision. What kind of photos do I really want to make? Like, what are the kind of photos I wish were in my portfolio? It's a thoughtful process. It's not something you're going to do in 5 minutes. It's something it's going to take you a little while. But once you get that, then we can move through this process. So if you're watching this in replay, then just pause the video right now and go find them. If you're watching it live with me here, with me and Eric, and by the way, Eric is taking your questions. There's a Q&A tab. Mm-hmm. If you have any questions, comments as we go, just drop them right in there. And if Eric can answer them, he will. And if not, he and I will do some Q&A after each section. And in fact, this is the end of that first section. So we've got like 5-6 sections to do. That's the end of the first one.
Yeah, and that's looking at it, just a lot of agreement, Scott, in the chat. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that use this technique already, talking about different ways. They were talking about different sites. 500px is another one that a lot of people are mentioning, and Flickr and stuff like that. So there's tons of other sites that you can use. But I agree with you that Instagram is a great place to go.
Oh, yeah. All righty. And just I want to welcome everybody that's watching. I know that people are watching from all over the world.
So
thank
all over
you guys.
The world. Yeah, I mean, we've got people tuning in all over the world. Tons of people in the chat. We've got Renee from Vail, Arizona. We got Magnus from Sweden. Tom says Scott has a new jacket. And we've got Susan from Ohio, Rivero and Vito joining in, Steve from Colorado.
Did you say Vito?
Yep.
Hey,
or no, he's
Vito.
saying hi to Vito. Never mind. But yeah, I think Vito's in the chat too. Kathy Peripsky's in the chat right down the street.
P.
Yeah,
All
Rose
right.
Kieran woke up early from New Zealand to watch this.
New Zealand, yeah, Rose.
So we got people all over the world. We got Scott from Pasadena, awesome. Mike's from Washington D.C. area. He's saying hi, and then somebody from Norway. Oyvind maybe. Oyvind.
All right.
It's got that little characters from Norway that I have no idea how to pronounce.
It's got characters that Americans can't pronounce for some reason.
Yeah,
but anyway, very glad that everybody's here. Thank you, Eric. I'm glad everybody's here. All right, you guys ready to move on to the next part? So we've gathered these images, and a lot of you have already done this, or you're doing this on a regular basis. I am not kidding you. I've said this in so many seminars. One of the keys to success of photography is not learning how to shoot in manual mode. It's looking at the other work of other photographers, other photographers that admire and you inspire to be. I think it's one of the most important things that you can do. Now that so many of you are already doing that, or maybe you're just doing it now, let's move on. This is where it really gets important. Now you're going to become basically an image detective. We're going to break those things down. Now, on my blog, I actually wrote a series of questions for you to kind of figure out, okay, well, how do I break an image down, all right? But the first thing is, before we look at how to break it down, the key to making this work is you got to write your answers down. You don't have to go old school and do a pen, but because of the way this works, you have to write it down somewhere. I wrote it in my notes app inside my phone. It syncs to all of my devices, so I have it there, but you can write it anywhere on your iPad. You can write it on a piece of paper. It's okay, but you're going to do a lot of writing. This is the step 2 is the one that takes the most time. It's not going to take us the most time because we're not going to do it all, but I'm going to take you through the process so you know what it is. But this is a really, it's the longest and maybe the most important, all right? So I grabbed an image. I just wanted to grab kind of a random image. It's an image I like, but it is a stock photo off of Adobe Stock, all right? And this is the one I used on my blog. And so you're going to ask yourself, like, I want to break down how to make this photo. I want to figure out how it was done, and I want to break it down. And you can do this with a series of questions that you can probably answer even though you weren't there with the photographer. A lot of this you'll be able to answer because a lot of this is either you guessing or it's your personal opinion. And that's okay because this is part of the process. All right, so here's the photo. All right, so my first question would be, and this is in this list, you can go to my blog at scottkelby.com and find this list. I think I posted links to it all on Friday. So on Friday, April, what was that? 3rd? Friday, April 3rd, go back to my blog and you'll see this, you'll see it. There's links to all of the 4 parts. First question is, it's just really simple. We start off really easy. So did the photographer shoot in portrait or landscape? Okay, it's wide. And what type of lens did they use? Can you figure out by looking at the photo? Well, in this case, it looks like a long lens. The background's a bit out of focus. It looks like they've zoomed in. So I'm going to guess. Now, if I had to guess, I would guess an 85 millimeter. Could be 100 or a 70 to 200, which is a very, very popular long lens. I'm going to say it's an 85 or a 70-200. Just a guess, just by looking at the background. I don't know. But can we stop for a moment and admire my slide mount, which I think is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
yeah, very cool.
Also from Adobe Stock. So anyway, that's for all you old school guys out there, you know. Anyway, so that's just a simple one to get us going. All right, next, what kind of light was it? Was it natural light? Is it flash? Was it a fill-in flash and all? All right, this looks to me like natural light, just straight outside. You can see, looks like, where's the sun? Behind her, right? Sun's behind her on the left side as we're looking at the picture, but not directly behind her, but you know, off to the left, and maybe a little lower in the sky. It looks like maybe, you know, late afternoon kind of sun. All right. I don't think there was a flash, and I don't think there is any fill light or anything. I literally think they just exposed, maybe they used spot metering and made her face brighter, or to do this exact shot, I would be in aperture priority mode, and I would just overexpose the shot intentionally. I would literally overexpose by a stop and a half, done. By the way, shout out to Cliff Mountner who taught me that trick. It works like a charm. Just overexpose the foreground and you're good. So that's what I'm guessing. What time of day was it probably taken? Again, just looking at the sun, it's not directly overhead. I'm thinking later in the day. Now, it could be in the morning too. It could be 9 in the morning. Could be 5 in the afternoon. Doesn't look like sunset yet. Doesn't look like dawn. It looks like, you know, but later in the day or earlier in the day. So the sun just came up, you know, and it's 9, 10 in the morning, something like that. Okay. So what is the subject of the shot? The subject clearly here in this particular case is easy to define. It's a person. It's a person. All right. Describe the direction of the light. Well, we kind of already did, so we know where kind of the light's coming from. All right. What is it that makes this subject interesting? If you had to define, this is your own personal opinion, what is it that makes the subject interesting? I seriously think it is her smile. I think that her smile is kind of interesting. She just looks so happy and at peace. You know, it's just I think it's a great expression, right? And I mean, she is an attractive young woman, but that doesn't make it captivating. That just, you know, there's lots of attractive young people like myself. Thank you. Anyway, but I don't think that's it. I think it really is her expression is what makes this photo. All right. Is there any kind of tone to the image? Has it got a cool tone? Is it cold? Is it warm? Like really, what makes this image? Well, I mean, there definitely is a tone to the image. I think it's very warm. Her skin tone looks very yellow. You can see that there's probably something done in post, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, it is a very warm style image. Okay. Can you figure out the f-stop? Would that help? Does it matter? In some cases, you look at it, what's the matter? You know, in this case, I can tell you, look how out of focus the background is. I'm going to guess it's not crazy out of focus, right? It's not f1.8 out of focus. I'm thinking it's f5.6, but it is a
I
more
think it's
wide open
F4.
f-stop. Could be f4,
I
could
think
be
it's
f5.6, something like that. All right. How is it composed? Well, top of her head's cut off. So it's tight. The photographer, if they are using a zoom lens, stood back and zoomed in tight. It's really a head and shoulders kind of shot. She is not exactly in the middle. She's just off center, a little to the right. And yeah, I think the most interesting thing from this that I would take away from the composition is that it's cut off the top of her head. But like I tell people, it's cut off enough to where you know it's intentional. It doesn't look like an accident or poor composition. It looks like that's what I was going for. So that's pretty good. All right. What can you figure out what they did in post-production? Like, is there anything that, yeah, they put a split tone or some color grading on this. I looked at this and that was the first thing I thought was, looks like green in the shadows in the split tone. So green in the shadows, yellow in the highlights. That's a very popular, it's a super popular thing right now. Like right now, for whatever reason, that is like a very, very popular look. It's an Instagram-y type of look. But yeah, it's got either a split tone or some color grading or even just a profile applied in Lightroom or Camera Raw, one of the creative profiles. Because inside of Lightroom and Camera Raw, as you'll see a little later, there are these built-in profiles that we could just use. All right, so that's what you're going to do. You're going to write these things down for the image, right? You're going to go through this list. You're going to write it down, and it's got to be kind of, so here's what I wrote about this. I said it's a wide shot, so it's taken, horizontally, but it's probably taken with a long lens, natural light outdoors, taken late in the day. Yes, it's there's no flash, it's natural light. It's kind of a head and shoulders portrait. It looks like it and it's taken on location. That's important. Maybe it was a park, maybe the beach, I don't know, something like that. The light was soft. It's backlit, right? The subject is probably like a pro lifestyle model. This wasn't somebody's friend, like, oh, hey, turn, let's get a shot. It doesn't look like that. And it doesn't look like it was a stranger, like you're walking down the beach and say, may I take your picture? That looks like a very well-crafted, planned shot. Plus, since now this is a little secret, but I mean, it's not a secret, but it's cheating. It's not secret, it's not the word. Cheating is the word. I got it from iStock Photo. Not iStock Photo. Who did I get it from? Adobe Stock. Got it from Adobe Stock. So we know it's a stock photo, which means they had to sign a model release, which means it was probably a professional model. It wasn't some stranger. Hey, would you mind signing this contract on the beach? Yeah, it's probably. So that's what I figured there. Background's way out of focus. It's not. I wrote f1.4 or f1.8. I don't think so. I don't think the background's that out of focus. Like when you shoot at f1.8, you really can't tell what's back there. We could tell it was trees and stuff. So I'm going to change what I wrote there. I'm going to go to F4 or F5.6. The composition wise, head's cut off and there's a tint, a split tone or a color grade and it's heavy yellow and green. All right. So once you've got this written down, you're going to see why you had to write it down. It's what's coming up is number 3. Let me check in with Eric and see if there's anything we need to address there in the chat.
Yeah. Leslie has a question of why would you intentionally cut off the top of her head?
Because that's first off, great question. That's a very contemporary way to compose. That's a very modern way. You'll see this a lot in magazines and obviously on the web and stuff. That's normally the way that I compose most of my photographs. And it's just it's very, what it is when to bring somebody in and get it as intimate as that photo was, you're going to have to get them tight and fill the frame. Well, all of your photos will be at a certain distance if you can't crop in. Like you'll never get that close intimacy without it. And so now that I've shown you that, was it Leslie? that ask that
Yes.
question? Now
Yes.
that I've shown you that, Leslie, it's like you ever buy a car and you think you bought it in a unique color, and then you leave the showroom and every car you see is that color.
Yeah.
That's the way this technique's going to be. You're going to look around and you're going to see that cutoff head thing is everywhere. It's just kind of the way it's done now. It is a very stylistic, modern look for portraits.
So
Uh,
Pat has an interesting question, and Pat's
okay.
question is, I never want to be accused of copying other ideas or styles. It's a huge problem for me. It limits me drastically. So what would you say to somebody in that with thinking like I don't want to copy other people?
I would say you should absolutely positively copy other people while you are learning. I mean, I play guitar, and if you look at my Twitter, my Twitter bio, it says, I'm the editor of Photoshop User Magazine and CEO of Kelby One and blah blah blah, and struggling guitarist. The way you become a non-struggling guitarist is to practice all of the guitar solos of your heroes. It's how we've learned guitar forever. You learn your favorite guitar solo from Aerosmith and from Guns N' Roses and for whatever bands that you follow, Def Leppard. You learn them note for note exactly. You copy their stuff exactly. Now, when you step on stage, you now know a little bit of Def Leppard, a little bit of Aerosmith, a little bit, and your style grows out of that. But the way we learn is copying straight. Like if you want to shoot like Joe McNally, you need to go copy Joe's things for practice. You're not going to sell them. You're not going to do client work that way. But there's only one Joe McNally. Joe has some weird special unicorn thing going on that no matter how hard we try, there's only one Joe McNally. You can try to copy him to death and people will go, oh, that looks a little McNally-esque, but Joe is his own thing. But copying him your style will grow out of that. Now, we're talking all of this, everything that we're doing now is the work behind us producing what we want. I'm not saying, well, let me ask you a question. Look at my list. If I didn't show you that shot, could you reproduce? Would you get that same shot? No. These are the ingredients. This is what makes that. But you're not going to have that same model, and you're not going to be on that same beach, and you're not going to be in that same light. Everything is going to be different. If you wanted to do that same photo and you used another person, it's just not going to look the same. It's just not gonna. That shot that I showed you with J-Lo isn't going to look the same if I use Eric. It's just going to look different. And nothing
No, it
against
isn't.
Eric, because Eric looks beautiful in every light. But
No.
it's so please go and copy those people. This list of what I'm showing you isn't copying anybody. It's just figuring out how they did it. What were the ingredients, right? You're not going to make the same thing, but you now kind of, and also you haven't seen what we're going to do. This is leading to something else. It's not leading to you copying them, but I would tell anybody the way we learn is to copy multiple different photographers. Out of all of those pieces, your
Absolutely.
own style will emerge.
Yeah, and that's like 100% absolutely. I can attest to that in my own life and my own photography. Just learning stuff throughout, and even applying other genres in. And like you talked about, like that's where you look at Daniel Corden or other landscape photographers. Like I follow Mark Adamus. Ramy is
Yes,
another one.
Mark's
Ramy,
great.
who is a Kelby
Oh,
One
Remy's the
instructor. I
same.
mean, you follow these people, you start seeing what they're doing, you start trying to reproduce it, but then that's actually influenced my tones and my rocket shots, and what I do with those just from those genres. So you're almost trying to copy them, but then you're putting then once you get good enough with that, you put your own look to it, or you put your
Yes,
own style
yes.
to it. And that's what it is. It's like at first you're kind of just copying, and then after a while you start getting your own voice and your own tone, and that's why copying is very
Right.
well,
It's a
or very good
learning
for the
tool.
learning. A
It's a
very good
learning
learning
tool.
tool.
It's not your final product. It's not what you put in your portfolio. It's not your final product.
Exactly. So if you're making your living and all that stuff off of photography and all that stuff, yeah, and then you're copying people, yeah, that's probably not the best way. But if you're just
Yeah,
starting
that's
out
bad.
or you're just along your path, copying is a great learning tool.
It is a
So,
great learning tool.
let's
All right,
see.
let's
Another
take one more and then
question
we'll roll.
here is Rockin' Robin is asking, or maybe a comment that I could get you to comment on is Often when I look around on Instagram, I'm tempted to toss my camera. What do you say to people like that?
What would I tell people that want to toss their camera? I would go,
Yeah,
you know
after
what?
they browse
You
Instagram.
Well, you know what? I would say come watch this webcast because we're at the beginning of this. We haven't gotten to where we want to be,
Yep.
but this whole webcast is designed to get you to take pictures that will make other people want to throw away their camera. Just remember this, and this is something that's hard for us to do. So, for example, we look and we see Daniel Corden's photos, which I think are absolutely amazing. I think he's wonderful. But here's the thing: we're not seeing the photos that Daniel didn't look good, that were out of focus, that were terrible. The problem is I only see Daniel Corden's best photos. I see all my own worst photos. I see every bad photo I take. So, for example, if I went where Daniel went, if I went to South Korea and I shot where he did, I would take hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos. And you know that tree, that incredible tree that he's shooting, that people hike up to and stuff?
Yep.
I would take hundreds of photos of that. But Eric, how many photos of that tree would I show when I got back?
One. And we talk about this all the time. You only need one.
You just need one great photo. And when you're composing your images, you're standing in front of that tree, there is a particular place where it all just comes together. Now, it might be where you stood, your angle up or down, your perspective, the light hits it just right. That's part of our job, is to keep shooting and shooting until we come to that where it all just comes together. And when it all comes together and just the light and the composition, and with composition, it's a thing where you're shooting, you're like, no, it's okay. I mean, have you ever been in front of something that was awesome and you couldn't get a good picture of it? I have so many times. You know where you'll really get challenged? The Grand Canyon. You go to the Grand Canyon, you're standing there and your jaw is down here, and you put up your camera and you try to take a good picture. It is one of the hardest places I've ever tried to take a photo in my life. I've been there numerous times. You ever see my Grand Canyon photos? There's a reason for that.
I could attest to this too. It has been like, one of those elusive shots. I mean, it's very hard. You're right. It's one of the hardest because it's so breathtaking, but it's so hard to capture that.
Yeah.
But then eventually you start getting stuff. And, last time I was out there, that's what we were actually filming a Milky Way class. And I remember talking to the crew about that. And we were saying that it looks so easy, but yet we worked the hardest we've ever worked at that location.
It's tough. But here's the thing. When you come back, you're not going to show 16 shots of it. If you go to Mesa Arch, you're going to show your one good shot. So when you're looking on Instagram, you're only seeing their very, very, very best shots. But when we look at our own images, we're seeing everybody's shots. I mean, we're seeing all of our bad ones. We're seeing all of these bad shots, out of focus, terrible, and then we'll see this one gem. And then all I care about is that one, finding that one, and I'm only going to show that one, So don't be depressed. Just understand you're seeing everyone's highlight reel. It's just like comparing your life to everyone else's life on Facebook. What do people put on Facebook? We're dining al fresco tonight, and they're at Burger King, but you just see them smiling and they're outdoors, and you're like, that's awesome, but they're sitting outside Burger King, hopefully with a mask on. Anyway, lift it up and take a bite.
Well, we probably should continue it. I got a couple more questions, but we can get to them a little later.
Let's continue because I got lots of stuff. Okay, you got your list. You wrote it down. All right, now rank the features that you think made those images special. So this is you deciding what these are. There's no right or wrong answer, because this is where you start to figure out who you are as a photographer and what matters to you. And this is the last one took the longest. This one might be one of the most important, if not the most important. Now you take a pen and paper or write it down in a different colored ink or whatever. I grabbed one of my images. This is an image from the Ely Cathedral. It is in Ely. It's in Ely, England. And I went there with a friend and had a wonderful day. So Claire Jones, who is a pro rugby photographer, she's an amazing rugby photographer, like really, really good. She invited me to come. She lives near here, and she was like, I have this beautiful church, and you should come out and do it. So I went out and shot that. And here's what the actual shot looks like. So let's break this down. I'm going to break down my own shot because I kind of know what it took, but I'm going to break it down for you the way I normally would. All right. So what is it that made this shot? Well, it's a wide shot. It's very, it's not tall, right? It's not portrait, it's landscape. It was shot with a very wide angle lens. You can tell it's very wide angle. It's using natural light, probably shot in the afternoon. It doesn't look like, yellow light coming in. It looks like regular, maybe morning light. What is the subject? It's a big, epic Gothic cathedral. And it's so ornate and amazing. It's probably in Europe or the UK. And inside of it, of course, you see that old world architecture and that workmanship. And it's incredible. What are some of the other things? Soaring ceilings, those beautiful soaring ceilings. It is a really epic place. Color-wise, it has very warm tones. If you remember the image, it had a lot of brown in it. And it was very brownish and all that kind of stuff. All right. And I'm guessing the f-stop, because everything's in focus, probably F11 or F16. And I went and looked, by the way, I cheated. It's F11. You can tell I'm using a very low perspective, right? It's a low perspective. I'm kind of maybe on a tripod down low, or maybe even a platypod. And the colors are very vibrant. So the colors are very punchy, all right? So now your job is to look at the list that you made from the previous images and go to each image. So if you did 10 images, you've got 10, pages of this. If you did 20 images, you've got 20. Go and rank what you think are the most important to you. Like if you had to say, what made this work? What was the thing that was, well, for me, I think the most important thing is that it was an epic Gothic cathedral. That's what I think is the most important part. Absolutely. The fact that it's the subject. The subject is an amazing subject. It is that European old world soaring kind of thing. I think the second thing that was important was that it was a wide shot. That was shot with a wide angle lens, because I think that helps give it its epicness, right? Its largeness. And then third, I think the low perspective. I think the fact that it was low made the building look bigger. It really gave it a bigness to it, which I think is kind of important. So, but if I had to go through, now you're going to do this for all 10 or 20 images. You've written down what they are. Go rank in importance to you what they are. Now, here's the interesting thing. When I do this and I go through this, and I think you're going to find the same thing, when you mark what your number 1 and your number 2 and your number 3 thing is, it's not going to be about the camera settings. This is the thing that we worry about the most. When I do a seminar on photography and I answer questions on the breaks, like I had a tour out on the road called the Ultimate Photography Crash Course. On the breaks, everyone's asking me questions. What metering mode do you use? How do you meter for the sun? All these different, it's all about camera settings. But when you go through and when you look at Daniel Corden's work, do you go, it's the camera settings. He's got special secret camera settings. It's not the camera settings, folks. And you're going to find that, and you're going to go through all of these, and none of them are you going to come away with, it was the f-stop. It was his ISO. It was her choice of shutter speed. It's not going to be any of those. It's going to be other things, right? All right. So once you've done that, all right, you've gone through all your images and you've marked them like 1, 2, 3. Here's where you start to reveal something about your photography. So now you can look at what you've ranked them, and let's go back and new sheet of paper, new sheet. You're going to look at the other ones. And you're going to write, say for, 10, 20 images, you're going to write the top 2 for each one. All right. You're going to go, what are the top 2 things from the list I already made? So, all right. What we're looking for is a common theme. So let's go ahead and watch. All right. So for my first photo, I liked the location, the lighting, then the perspective, and they had a great model. The third photo was the top two were light and the time of day. Number 4 was composition. It doesn't matter. I made a whole long list of 19 things here that I thought were from these photos that I pulled down that I thought were really great. Now let's look for common themes. What do you see in here and mark it? Look at that. For me, look how many times I wrote the word location. How many times the location was the big thing in the photo? So you just learned something about yourself and about your photography. You learned that to you, location is a very, very important thing. It's a key thing that makes you fall in love with the photo. Look for other words that are the same. So right now you could write on a piece of paper, location is important to me. That's something that draws me to a photo. Next, look how many times I wrote the word lighting. Lighting, light, lighting, sunset light, lit, background lighting, soft light, lighting, lighting, simple lighting, lighting. Look how many times I wrote light. So now I know a couple of things. I know that I want to be on location, that location is important to me, and I know that the lighting is very important to me, right? Now, I may be looking at different genres, but remember the football shot I showed you from the Vikings photog? You look at his photo and what were the things that stood out to me? The way the light behind the player was all washed out, the way it wrapped around his face, the way it lit the floor, lighting. None of that, it was all natural light. It doesn't have to be a particular kind of lighting, but the light is important to me. Now, these are my own answers, so, but you'll see a commonality. All right, move on. What else? Colors, colors, color, color, color. This is why you don't see many black and whites from me. I love color, apparently. I occasionally do a black and white, but I'm drawn to color. And so I would never call myself a black and white photographer. Every once in a while, I love to do a black and white, and I have my little black and white period while I'm in love with black and white. But really, I'm looking at the list, the things that are most important to me. Color, 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 color. Where else did I see in there? Look at that. In my own words, simplicity, simplicity, simple and clean, simple lighting. So I do like the simplicity. And people. The great model, the subjects look happy, it's a portrait, two people, face, two people, expressions, clothing, person, clothing. So obviously, shots with people are important to me. So I'm starting to see these pattern of things that now I'm writing them down. I like location, I like people. How can I take people on location with great light and great color? And I'm starting to see the things that this is what I love, right? So now let's piece this all together, and this is where it gets really interesting. So at this point, you've done a lot of work that is going to help you uncover who you are as a photographer, but more importantly, this all is taking us on this path to making these type of photos. So now we're going to uncover, now that we have this information, now that we know the things that we like. Now, by the way, your list will be different than mine. Yours may not be location, lighting, colors. You're drawn to black and white, and you're drawn to architecture, and you're drawn to lines, and you're drawn to angles. I mean, it can be completely different than mine. So there is no right or wrong answer, because this isn't discover what Scott likes about photography. This is discover what you like about photos and finding out what your path is and what's going to lead you to making the kind of photos that make you happy and fulfill you. All right. Now let's piece it all together. All right, let's take a look at the shot that we took earlier. So this is the one from the Ely Church, right? So if you wanted to shoot this exact photo, like you actually wanted this photo, like what would you have to do? Like how out of reach is that for you? Well, you have to fly to London. You catch a train from London out to Ely, and then you take a cab from Ely to the Ely Cathedral. All right, now, here's the thing. Once you get to the Ely Cathedral, right, how hard will it be to shoot there? You walk in and you set up your tripod and shoot. Now, I've been to cathedrals around the world that they will charge you a fee. Some say, oh, you want to shoot with a tripod, it's $10. It's not the norm, but it happens here and there. But it's a donation to the church, right? It's a donation. But you would have to fly to London. Now, I will tell you this. In January and December, I saw deals from Tampa. Now, Tampa is not where you want to fly from, right? So I live in Tampa, the Tampa Bay area. Tampa, they never have good deals from Tampa. The deals are cruddy because you always have to
Yeah.
fly to like New York or fly to Atlanta. In fact, most of my life is spent flying to Atlanta and then going someplace else. Do you know British Airways had flights in December and January, round trip on British Airways, direct Tampa to Gatwick Airport in England, $349. $349. I about fell out of my chair. Now you could say, well, Scott, that doesn't include hotel room. No, you're right. You're right. You're going to have to get a couple nights hotel. And you could leave on a Wednesday night. It's a night flight and it goes overnight. You wake up and you're there. Then you're going to have to spend about 20 pounds for the Gatwick Express to get you into London. And then you're going to switch, I think, at Paddington Station and go out to Ely. So yeah, it's going to cost you the airfare and a couple of nights hotel, and you can stay at inexpensive bed and breakfasts, and you can eat inexpensively if you want, or you can spend as much money as you want. But you don't have to go to England to get that kind of shot. Now, you might live in England. You might live in the UK. I know we got people watching from all over the world. Getting to London for you might be just getting on a train. It might be getting in the car, driving to Ely. You might live in Ely. You might be half an hour from Ely. So getting to that church is it. But I want you to think about this. If you don't live in the UK or you don't live in Europe where you can go through the channel or any of that stuff, there are churches very, very much like that here in the United States. Right here, take a look at this church. This is, well, that's not it. This is the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Amazing, big, beautiful Gothic church that's here in the United States. How about the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York City? By the way, our thing is lagging a little bit here, right?
Yeah, that is like the #1 underrated church in America right there.
This church is incredible when you go and see it. Here's the opposite direction. It's just unbelievable. It is just incredible. It looks like they took it from Paris and dropped it in New York. But that's not the only nice. Of course, you've got the famous St. Patrick's Cathedral. And this is the view from behind the altar that you're seeing here. It's an amazing church. You don't have to go to New York or Washington. How about the Cathedral of St. Paul in St. Paul, Minnesota? Or the Trinity Church in Boston. It's an incredible church right downtown the middle of Boston. Or how about this one, St. Clement's in Chicago, right? How hard is it to take this shot? You set your camera down on the floor, and thank you, by the way, Eric, for the behind-the-scenes photo here. Set your camera down low. Well, maybe down low. There you go. Oh, did we miss it?
I don't know why. I think yours is your screen is lagging a little bit, so you might want to give it a second.
Let's go back and look at St. Clement's Church here. Give it a second to catch up. So there's the behind-the-scenes shot, and then hopefully it'll catch up, and you'll see the other one. But it's not, so let's try it again. Here we go. Well, imagine it looks a whole lot better than it does. How's that? Imagine if there we go.
There it is.
There we go. It's such an incredibly beautiful church right there in Chicago. How much does it cost to get in? Nothing. Just walk in. Are you allowed to use a tripod? Yeah.
Yeah, they were cool with everything.
They were cool with everything. Most churches and cathedrals and a lot of other places, they're totally cool with you coming in. It doesn't cost you anything. This is in Chicago.
And really, one point, because I know people are talking about it right now, given this is not right now. This is like,
of course, this is a drive there tomorrow.
Stuff happens, well, the world's going to open back up. We're going to be able to travel, and that's when this is going to be applicable.
Right. So I thought that go without saying. I thought that, we all know.
I'm just trying to make that because there's some comments about that. So.
Yes, this is, of course, once the awful virus is behind us, don't do this today. However, if you do this today, it will be exactly the same as it was when Eric and I were there. It will be empty in the middle of the day.
I mean, it was. I mean, every church we tend to walk into, because Scott and I will do this a lot, it's usually like this. Unless it's a service, it's usually like this. And I remember that one. The guys are so nice. I mean, they went in. This is their church. This is their pride. Like, they turned on all the lights for us. They showed us all the history. I mean, it was great. Like
And we just said,
that's
can we come in
another.
and
I
take
mean,
some
that church is
pictures?
so underrated right there. That one.
Oh, look at this St. Nicholas Ukrainian church, also
Oh,
just in the Chicago suburbs. Just
beautiful church.
incredible churches. And all we said was, is it okay if we take some pictures? They're like, are you kidding? And you know what's nice though? They're so proud of their church that you will normally get the whole history of the church and you'll meet some
Mhm.
wonderful people. It's a lot of fun. The whole experience is great because they know they've got something special and they're proud of it and they want to share it. And at this St. Nicholas's has got some water damage in the back of the church. And so we all gave a donation to help, help repair the church. So when you give a donation like that, you're helping preserve some amazing places. But the point is, I mean, look at this one. This is another one inside of Chicago. You're about to see the beautiful St. Mary's of the Angels, which is also another stunning church. And if you look, it's the same perspective, it's the same camera, it's the same settings that I used for the cathedral in Ely, right?
And the
There are
same
other different
lens
beautiful
too.
places, but you can make this style of shot without having to fly to England.
So Reem's asking what lens.
Well, we're going to talk about that. I'm coming to
Okay.
that right now. All right, and I've got a couple others just to show. This is 25 minutes from here. This is
Mm-hmm.
another St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church in Tarpon Springs, Florida. This one is in Tampa, Florida. But by the way, you can get these Gothic interiors. They don't have to be cathedrals and stuff. They're anything from opera houses. They can be, in this case, and what you're going to see in just a moment, is it looks like a cathedral, but it was built and operates as a library. This is the Suzela Library at the University of Washington in Seattle. And I asked them, did this used to be a church? And they're like, no, it was built as a library in 19 whatever. All right. So what is the commonality? What is required to take this type of shot? It's basically two things, right? There's two things. Number one is you're going to need a wide angle lens, right? You're going to need some kind of a wide angle. Now, my go-to wide angle lens is a 16 to 35. If you don't have a 16 to 35, you don't need a 16 to 35. So take a look at what a really wide angle lens will get you, right? Now, what if you don't have a 16 to 35? What if you only have like a 24 or something? Then you get this. That's it. It won't be as wide, right? A 16 is this wide and a 24 is this wide. It's kind of the same shot. It just won't be as wide. So don't let that say, I can't get that shot. I don't have that one. Look, what is the most common cheap lens? If you were to buy, if you go to B&H and you say, just give me the cheapest Nikon, cheapest Canon, whatever, it's going to come with an 18 to 55. It's going to be a crop sensor body with an 18 to 55. Shoot it with the 18. And you know what it's going to look like? Like this. All right. So don't let the lens hold you back. Now, if you say, no, Scott, I don't have a 16. I don't have a 24. All of my lenses are 400 millimeter. Go to lensprotogo.com and rent one. Just rent it. You'll be stunned at how cheap they are. In fact, how stunned? Eric will go and find out what it'll cost you to rent a 16 to 35 for a couple of days. But it will be much less expensive than buying a 16 to 35. And honestly, if you've ever used them before, they ship you a box, you open it up, and very meticulously inside is the lens. You put it on, you use it for a few days for whatever you want, your trip to Chicago. When you're done, they have the packaging and the return label. It's all ready to go. You just put it back in the box, seal it, and send it back. It's the easiest process.
A 4-day rental on a 16 to 35 is $67.
$67. And you know what else? A lot of people will do this to see if they want the lens, like to buy a lens.
Mm-hmm.
Like before they buy it, they're like, I don't know if I'm like a 16. Now, is that a 2.8 or an F4?
4. That's a 4.
Yeah, you only need the F4 because you're going to be shooting it like F11. All right. So whatever wide angle lens you have, use that. If for some reason you don't have any wide angle lens, go rent like a 16 to 35. All right. What's the other thing you need? This. You're going to need a tripod. You're going to be shooting in low light. You're indoors. Those are the only two things you need. Now, I also, instead of using a tripod and splaying out the legs, because I'm lazy, I will often use a platypod. which is it's a tripod replacement. It's a little flat plate. It's what you saw my other camera sitting on the ground on. It's like a tripod. I think they even call it, I think the name of if you look at it, they're called platypod tripods, but it's just a flat plate. But anyway, all right, so now you know this. You don't have to go to Europe to shoot this. You can shoot it with whatever wide angle lens that you have. You do need something to keep your camera steady. Now, if you said, Scott, I do not have a tripod. I don't have any friends that have a tripod. I have no access to a tripod. And I can't afford to rent a tripod from Lens Pro to Go because they rent everything. But if you said, I just can't do it, what could you do? You could lean your camera on the floor and put your phone under it so it tips up a little bit. You could lean your camera on a pew, or you can raise your ISO and hand hold it. All of those things. You have everything you need to make that shot. Now, what about the post-production? Okay, that's sticky. How long will the post-production take you on a photo like that? About 60 seconds. That's it. In fact, let's go ahead and do it. Let me jump over to Lightroom. Here's the photo. It doesn't look like much coming out of the camera, does it? No, it does not. So let me just hide the side here so we get a better view. And let me see if I can hide the bottom and get a better view. I got a thing in the way of it. There we go. All right. Okay, that's a better view. So what would I do? Now, if you did nothing more than what I'm going to show you, you're going to be there. Click the auto button right there as your starter. Also, I would go and choose, you see where it says profile here? I generally go and choose Adobe Landscape, even if it's not a landscape, because it just makes the tone of the photo better. Take a look. Now, by the way, that only works if you're shooting in RAW. It's assigning a profile after the fact. If you shot in JPEG, you won't have these choices. All right, but look at the difference, right, between the default and then look how much more colorful and vivid just choosing Adobe Landscape is, even though it's not a landscape. All right, what else would I do? Well, I think the whole thing's a little bright. I'd lower the highlights because that window back there, and then maybe lower the exposure a little too. I will generally increase the contrast and the shadows. I will use the texture slider to bring out detail. So the texture slider is the detail one. And we're about done. I think I would add one more thing. I'd go to the effects panel, to the highlight priority, and just darken the edges all the way around, and now I'm done. That's it. You got 60 seconds in it. Now, if you wanted to add another 10 seconds, I like the epic look that a wide angle lens makes. The whole thing's kind of leaning away from you. I like that. But if you were like, no, Scott, I need my side straight, you could go here to the transform thing. We'll go to lens correction and turn on the profile. Just enable that to get rid of. You can see. Look at the difference. It did help a little bit. But what you're going to do is go to transform and just grab the verticals and just straighten it up so they're not. There you go. And then maybe you could go to the aspect to make it a little wider because it kind of scrunches it when you do that. There you go. And you're done. That's it. I mean, that's all you have to do to get there. Let's see if it goes full screen or it just does nothing. Did it go full screen? Sometimes Lightroom's full screen thing doesn't.
I would guess it probably didn't. It probably is not going to go.
Well, all right, that's all right. But that's it. So if that was the kind of image that you wanted to make, what I hope that showed you is it's probably a lot more accessible than you think, right? And I think that a lot of these things, when you start breaking it down like this, you're like, oh, there's no way I could. It looks so complicated. Then you go, well, wait a minute. Eric does this all the time. That's his thing. He likes to figure all these things out. Now, Eric shoots rockets. He sometimes figures out very hard things. I like the easy way. All right, so let's continue on. I'll look at another photo. Let's do it again. All right. So let me go back to my my presentation here. Let me zip over to here. Okay. All right, so we did the post. Let's take a look at this image. And then let's kind of break down just briefly. We're going to make, because I don't want to keep you on here all day. We're about done. So what is going on in this picture? What is it that makes this picture? Well, we went to a place with an old crumbly brick wall as the backdrop. So brick wall background. I knew from the beginning I wanted a brick wall background because I'd seen pictures like that, and I want a brick wall background. But I wanted to put something else in front of it. So I wanted to put like uh, it's a cloth background, really. And these backdrops, I found a company in Serbia called gravitybackdrops.com, right? Gravity, like, the law of gravity, gravity backdrops. And they sell you these cheaper than you can rent these backdrops from some of the rental houses in New York. So you can own them for a fraction of the cost, right? So there's a couple of backdrops, all right? So they're painted canvas, but they're inexpensive. Now, you can also just rent backdrops, or you can buy them. You can get backdrops for $50 on Etsy, for $49. You can get backdrops on Etsy, etsy.com, etsy.com. Crazy low prices, like ridiculous, like $50. Are you kidding me? All right. So what else? Well, there's the dress. So it is a very high fashion dress. Now, in the particular situation that you're seeing right there, how did we get the dress? Well, we found a local designer. And when you find a designer, they're looking for, number one, things to put on their own social media. They've got Instagram accounts they need to support. They've got Twitter and they've got LinkedIn and all these accounts where they need constant content. A lot of times you can say, look, I need a really cool dress for a shoot. I'll give you all the images to use on, well, I'll do behind the scenes images. I'll do a video. You can do whatever you want. You can film a video with your iPhone and give that to them as behind the scenes thing because it gets them views. Now, it's a trade. You're not asking for free stuff. You're doing a trade. You let me borrow one of your dresses and I will shoot a bunch of shots for you. We're trading. You're not asking for something free and you're not asking for just publicity. Right? You're not asking that thing like, hey, how about if, can I have your photos for free? You're working out a deal. If you don't want to work out a deal, that's fine. I got a place for you to go for crazy dresses right here. Inception Rentals. You can rent, look at these dresses. Look at the one in the bottom right-hand corner. It is a parachute dress. So it's designed to be thrown up in the air and then you photograph it. Look at the lush velvet gown in the left corner. These are a 3-day rental for $149. Now, guys, I want you to focus on something real quick. When I'm telling you to do this, you're saying, well, Scott, come on. I got to spend $149 now. Like, look, you're not going to do this every week. We'd all go broke. I don't do shoots like this every week. I'd go broke. Look, you're going to say maybe twice a year, I'm going to invest and I'm going to get that kind of shot I want. I'm going to get one of these crazy dresses. I'm going to go to a crazy beautiful location and I'm going to make a crazy shot. But when you think about, you're getting thousands and thousands of dollar dresses that you can rent, and you're just going to do this a couple of times a year. Now, depending on your budget, you might say, I can do this 4 times a year. Depending on your budget, I can do it every month. Great. I'm not that guy. I wind up doing maybe 3 or 4 of these on a good year and 2 of them on a regular year. So, but you're planning 6 months in advance. I'm going to fly to London. I'm going to take that train. I'm going to go to that cathedral. Or I'm living in the United States. I'm going to drive to DC. I'm going to go to the National Gallery, and I'm not going to spend anything other than the gas money to get there. Or I'm going to do this shot. I'm going to go to Arizona. I'm going to go out to where I'm going to go to the airline graveyard, and I'm going to, where all the old planes are parked, the military planes and stuff. And I'm going to do a fashion shoot in the desert where it doesn't cost me anything in the desert. What have I got? $149 or $124. So here's their website, by the way. And I'm not affiliated with them or anything. I'm just one of their customers. Inception Rentals, but they're not the only ones. There's all kinds of people in other places. JJ's House. So it's the letter J, JJ's house.com. They got all kinds of dresses and accessories at prices that you're going to be like, I can't believe that they can sell them this low. All right. So let's go back to what we were breaking down. So now we know we can get a dress and that's affordable. What else is there? 2 lights. 1 light with a softbox directly over her head and 1 light to fill in from the side. That's it. You really could have done it with just 1 softbox. So 1 flash, 1 softbox. You could have easily done it with just 1. But because I had more, I just said, let's do a little fill in. I could have taken the shadow slider and moved it in Lightroom, but I had the extra lights, so I did a fill from the side. But I had a light just directly over her head on a boom, just directly over her head. You're like, I don't have a boom. Do you have a friend that can put a light on the end of a You can get a painter's pole. All right, listen to this. Go to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy a
Yeah.
painter's pole. Then go to B&H and search for the word painter's pole adapter. They make an adapter that lets you screw your light on the end of a painter's pole. Then you have your friend hold the light out up over your subject, directly over their head. So, painter's pole, all right? Painter's pole. Okay, so we got 2 flashes, all right? That's what we got going on. All right, what else do we have? Borrowed furniture. All the furniture there, we didn't go out and buy it. We bought one thing off, I think, of Etsy or Amazon. I'm thinking it came off of Amazon. But all the stuff that you see in this shot either came from our house, was borrowed from a friend, or was borrowed off somebody's desk at the office. The rug was borrowed. The vase on the floor was borrowed. The couch, the table, the flowers. I think we bought the bird cage really cheap. It was ridiculous. I think it was used too. I think it either came off of Amazon or it came off of Etsy, but it was like ridiculously cheap. Like we had such a low budget for stuff. So everything that you see there is kind of just what we already had. So we didn't spend any money on accessories. The dress was provided by the designer. And let's see what else. We got two soft boxes and flashes. All right. Now, here's what we did that really made this shoot. We hired a hair and makeup artist, and we hired a professional model. Now, she is a New York model who has family in the Tampa Bay area. So we were able to coordinate with her when she would be in town, seeing her folks, and we could do a shoot. And she was awesome. That's her, MJ Butterly. She's wonderful, great to work with, super, super nice, super patient. That is an important trait for a model when you're working with me, because I'm sitting there going, how are we going to get this looking the way I want to? What do you think? Are we going to, let's move that light over here. Like there's a lot of, and if you guys watch my latest class, you see how we start off with tough situations and get to the final shot. But so what did I do in post-production? So what's the post for that shot? You know, I wish I could show you a bunch of really cool tricks, but I will show you the one thing I did do. I didn't do cool tricks, which is one. I sometimes wish, like, people say, you got to show me what you did. I'm like, you're going to be really disappointed. All right, so here's the image. This is a tight end close above it. I went to the basic panel, and I think I lowered the exposure a bit, increased the contrast. I did lower the highlights because it looked like it was getting a little, right in her arms. But the big feature is I added a color tone. I added a tone to the image, which is very, very, everyone's doing it in fashion. You can do it right here in Lightroom. See these little 4 rectangles? You click on them and you go down and you find one that you like. I like this Artistic 07. And you notice it puts that kind of yellow and green tint that we saw on the photo earlier. All right, now I want to talk to that person that wrote the comment about stealing somebody else's images. Remember the photo of the young girl with the nice smile? Remember that? Her expression was great. And I said, the color tone, I really like the color tone. It's yellow in the highlights and green in the shadows. It's a default. It's a default here in Lightroom. Does this look like that photo? Do you look at this photo and go, oh yeah, he stole that shot from the girl on the beach with this smile? No, but you're taking something that you liked from that photo, and from that comes your own style and your own look. But you know that you're drawn to that warm style. So it was almost a lock that I was going to do that. Now, I'm also going to steal from the church shot. Remember how I darkened the edges all the way around I'm going to go to the FX panel, and I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to go to Effects, and I'm going to darken the edges all the way around. And I think I'm even going to actually desaturate the photo a little so the reds aren't so red. There we go. And that would get me to my final image. And you can see the difference, and you might like the first one better. It's up to you. But that's how I did finish the image, which was adding a color tone to it. All right. Now, let's take that idea, the ideas that I've just learned from my own image, and let's go apply it. Let me go out of here, and let's apply it to that shot that I saw, which is, I think, J-Lo, but I could be wrong. Maybe someone that looks like J-Lo. Okay. Now, what's going on in this shot? Let's just real quick play Image Detective real quick. Well, looks like the background is a soundstage. Now, you might say, well, I don't have a soundstage. Right. Yeah, me either. So what can we do? Warehouse. All right, we can do a warehouse, or you can see if there is a soundstage near you. You would be shocked at how many places in the United States, in the UK, in Europe have sound stages, huge sound stages. Here's the other thing I think you'll be surprised about. It's shocked me. On days that they're not doing anything, how ridiculously inexpensive you can get places that you would never dream of getting. We've rented entire theater houses for $400 for the day. Sometimes they'll just let us come in and shoot. If you're nice and say, hey, I'm a photographer and I needed a sound stage as the backdrop for this shot. Would you guys rent it to me? Sometimes they'll just go, oh, it's okay. You can just use it. You're like, excuse me? Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, you can come. When do you want to come in? Thursday? We've got nothing going on this week. You can come in Thursday. And it happens more times than you'd think. Just ask. Just ask how much it is to rent it. And sometimes they'll go, it's $100 an hour. $100 an hour, by the way, is a very common price, or $50 an hour is a very common price to rent an entire facility. And you say, I just need it for 2 hours. Okay, it's $50 an hour, $75 an hour. Yeah, you're paying, if it's $75 an hour, you're going to pay $150 for an amazing backdrop for your shot. How many times you can do this? 12 times a year? No, you may only do it once or twice a year. But invest in yourself, and you don't have to buy any more equipment, right? So look at the stuff in the background. Those are props, right? They're props in the soundstage. That's what's nice about getting a soundstage. There'll already be junk there. Also, look at the Apple boxes. See the Apple boxes that those are called Apple boxes, by the way. Let's jump over to, do I have it right here? I do, right here. You can get them at B&H. They're called Apple boxes. You stand on them, or if you want to get a higher angle when I'm shooting portraits, sometimes I'll step on these. You can buy a set of 4 for $132. They're yours to keep. You will never stand on anything sturdier in your life than a Matthews set of boxes. They're incredibly sturdy. I mean, they're like a rock, and you can use them for posing, put someone's leg up on them. They sell them at B&H, and look, it has 232 reviews and a 4.5-star review. Anyway, but yeah.
Or if you're handy, Scott, you could build that very easy. I mean, you can build those very easy. So not
handy. My buddy Jeff Ravel would build these in a morning. Yes. For me, you can see him in my studio. It says burned into the side of him with a Matthews. Yep. All right. So you look at this image and you go, okay, well, so what else is going on there? We're playing image detective, right? I think that they put a smoke machine in the background. What do you think, Eric? Look in the back.
Yeah, there's that haze and that smoke in the background.
All right. How expensive is a smoke machine, Eric? $30?
Yeah, I mean, you can get a decent one. Yeah, it's 50,
yeah.
70.
You just
rent it, or you could borrow it from a friend. I mean, there's a lot of times.
You just need the Halloween version. You don't
the Halloween version, $30.
$30 for the Halloween version. All right. And how many lights are on her? It looks like one. Mm-hmm. Looks like one single light. And they're shooting into they're short lighting, and they're shooting into the shadow side of her face. The light is looking at the photo. It's on the left. Mm-hmm. And it's probably a big softbox, though. Might be like a big umbrella. Now, you can get a 7-foot parabolic umbrella from Westcott for flash, right? So you'll be using your flash for $99. $99. Cheap. All right. Now, there's one other thing that's going on here. Can you tell me what else is going on in this photo? There's a brown tint over the whole photo. That's the post-production secret. Now, I don't know how much retouching or anything was done. Probably not much. But her outfit's very simple. Nice pair of slacks, a shirt, and a blue sweater. So you're not having to break the bank on styling. But there is a brown tone over the whole photo. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a screen capture. Let me just do this. I'm going to screen capture this. And I'm going to show you what I think. All right, let's take that over to Photoshop real quick. Let's drop it into a new document. And then let's do a regular white balance. Let's go to Camera Raw, and we'll just do a regular white balance. So I'm going to get the white balance eyedropper tool. I'm going to click it on the gray floor. The floor would be gray, right? So I'm going to click it over there. So that's probably the realistic. Look at the difference. I'm going to go to the side by side. So look at the brown tone that was on the photo. Yeah, those are probably white pants. But the retoucher put a beautiful, I love what they did with the brown tone. I think that's the thing that really one of the things that drew me to the photo was the tone. I mean, obviously, great subject, great pose, great look, interesting backdrop, and then the sweetening on the top, that really nice brown tone on the image. And that's, again, go into Lightroom and add a brown tone. It's easy to do. Okay, so I want to wrap things up here for you because we're just about out of time. But remember I said I went to ProPhoto's website and I thought, well, ProPhoto's picking their highlights of 2019. There's going to be some great shots, and you know what? There were. All right, let's just 30 seconds on each one. Take a look at this one from Marie Barsh Photography. Let me tell you, I looked at her Instagram. Holy cow. Unbelievable. Absolutely like lights out photographer, beauty headshot style. She's in Germany right now. She's crushing it. But this was one of her shots. So it's shot on location. You can see the sun's behind her on the right side. Looks like one light on the right. Sun's behind her on the left, looking at the camera. Looking at from the camera view. And one light, it's beautiful light. Obviously, ProPhoto is not going to choose it as one of their, but beautiful light on location somewhere. Now, this could be Napa Valley. This could be Italy. It could be anywhere, but it is a location shot with one light and a great subject. Another one, look at this one. This guy's also fantastic. I went and looked at all their stuff. They chose lights out photographers. This guy, Alexis, he's amazing. And he actually has a video, and he talks about how he did this shot and it shots like it. And you know what he's using? One light with a gel. He puts one color. See the blue? So he sets his white balance really blue so the photo looks blue. And then he adds orange and red and different CTO gels over the one flash to make the shot. But what makes the shot for me is the color and the subject. It's such a wonderful pose, right? It's a great silhouette you can see, but it's the location too. Now, this location could be anywhere. The fact that there's a set of bars in there for ballet, you could have brought those in. In fact, we've rented bars. We've rented ballet bars for a class that we did, I think, with Dave Black. So, you can rent this stuff. And really, she's in a room. There's a wall behind her. There's a flash. But really nicely done. Just beautiful gesture. And I love, 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 love what he did with the color. How about JB? This is JB and Diet Sally. I've met JB before. Super nice guy. Very good. He does workshops all over. He's really, really great. And he did something else that's kind of cool. Well, first off, look at the cool dress. Where could you find a dress like that? I know a place where you can rent one, right? But look what he did. Number one, he's got a cool location. The sun's in the perfect place. There's just a lot of cool stuff going on. But check this out. I'm going to take you over here and see if I got him up here. Yeah, so this is his Instagram page. All right, take a look at this. He's the red dress guy. Look at this. He's doing all kinds of neat stuff with these red dresses. This one was shot from a workshop. He does workshops. You can see some behind the scenes shots here. Look, one light there. Oops, it went away. Oh, I lost it. Anyway, that's him there. Great photographer, great stuff, great lighting. And look what he's doing. He's taking that dress to cool locations and he's lighting it really well. He's just a really good photographer. So anyway, he does workshops. He's somebody I'd love to take a workshop from. Same thing. Some of these other photographers that we've looked at, the original guy I showed you who did the JLo shot, he does workshops. I'm like, that's a workshop I would pay to go to. All right, let's wrap things up. All right. So what do we have in all of these cases? All of those ones that ProPhoto chose as their highlights of 2019, great subject. In each case, you had an interesting looking person or a beautiful looking person in a great location. All the backgrounds were interesting and it was great light. Even the one with the ballet, the thing that made it interesting was you just assume it's a ballet studio because there's a ballet bar. Is that what it's called, Eric? A ballet bar?
Yep, it is. My
Okay.
daughter has one and she's practicing at home. She practices at home with her Zoom calls now with her instructors.
Right? Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, so all of those had in common. So when you look at this one, you go, look, warehouse location will get you there, right? The lights are props. All those lights in the background, they're just props. They're not lighting her. They're not doing anything. There's a smoke machine and apple boxes, right? Simple fashion. A nice pair of slacks, pleated slacks, a shirt, and a sweater over it, right? You got one light, lighting your subject, and you got really a great subject. And we
But
saw
what's
with the
interesting,
production.
what's interesting about that, Scott, is you're not talking about the camera and the setting
Mm-mm.
and the f-stop.
No, no, none of it is. You can do this with
But
the stuff that you
Scott,
already.
that's what matters.
That's what we talk about. But here's
I
the
know, I'm
thing.
just
This
kidding.
is what it all comes down to. When you put these things together, you realize what the ingredients are. Now, you may not be able to get J-Lo to pose for you, but you probably can get somebody in a similar look, in a similar location. It's not going to look like that. Even if you want it to look like that, it's not going to look just like that. And you don't want it to look just like that. You want it to have your fingerprints on it, your hand. Like, you know who? Like, if when I look at that shot, the J-Lo shot, reminds me of uh, Chris Knight. Chris Knight does these dramatic
Yeah.
portraits, and some of them are done like in the corner of a studio or something like that. They look very Hollywood with regular people. Like he gets regular models, not celebrities. I'm sure he probably has shot celebrities, but he does an amazing job of using prop lighting and great light and dark backgrounds, and his stuff's very dramatic, and his stuff is awesome. I love Chris Knight's work. He's like one of my favorites. But Chris's stuff looks very different than what you just saw, even though Chris uses prop lights, he uses great subjects, he uses the same brand of lights. All that stuff are all the same, but his
I
stuff
don't know if
looks
they can
like.
pull it up. I've got his Instagram here.
Yeah, can we show some of Chris's stuff?
Yeah, if they go to my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now scroll down and you'll get to some of the stuff that I'm talking about. His real dramatic. Okay, right there. Like go up a little bit, like that. And if you'll see, he's got a lot of shots that have those lights in the background or a prop. Ooh, it went to something different. Boy, he's good, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's got a very Hollywood look to his stuff. And if you scroll down a little further, Eric, you'll see some of his the stuff where he actually does have those same kind of things, those same kind of props. There you go. Tell me that doesn't look like Hollywood glamour, right? It looks like a 1940s type of thing. There's the light. Now that light actually looks like it's on and doing a little something.
Yeah, it's doing a little something.
But look what an amazing photo that was. And what's he using? One of those painted backdrops and a prop light. All right. Thanks for digging that up, Eric. Okay.
Yep.
Let's wrap this up. So here's what it comes down to. When you look at all your things, like when I talked about Larry Grace and that jet going by, what would it take me to get a shot like that? Well, it would take me renting a lens. I would probably rent a 100 to 400 from Lens Pro to go. But what it would take me, because if you look at Larry's hashtags, that was shot at an air show, a public air show. Anybody can shoot that shot if you practice. You have a long enough lens to get that. And, it's not a propeller plane. Propeller planes are notoriously hard to shoot because you got to get the prop spin just right. And they're notoriously hard. Fighter jets, you can freeze them at 1/8,000th of a second as they're zooming by. You just have to get to an air show. I know we're not going to air shows this week or this month or probably next month, but later in the summer, Oshkosh, go there. Rent a long lens. If you don't already have a 100 to 400, rent a one. And you're going to come up with shots like that. And Larry, he teaches this stuff. How did I know that guy gelled his stuff? Go to their Instagram page and there's a video of them talking about it. So many photographers today are willing to share their techniques. And the techniques for shooting aviation, you can find it at Larry Grace Photo. Larry talks about it all the time, and I've gone to their conventions. I've taught at their conventions, and Larry sits in the front of the room and says, here's how you get this shot. There are so many photographers out there willing, and it's only going to cost you whatever it's going to cost you to go to the $25, $35, $55, whatever it is, to go to your local air show. Now, every year I try to, if I can, get to the Sun and Fun Fly-In, which was just canceled because it's supposed to be this month. The end of this month or early next month. It was coming up.
I think they're postponing it though.
They're
probably going to have it later in the year. I've been tracking it too because I'm going.
Oh yeah, right? So
Hmm.
anyway, so this is what it's going to come down to at the end of the day. Are you willing to do the things that you would need to do to make the type of shots you want to make? And that's what it really comes down to. Are you willing to say, you know what? I want to make a shot with a crazy dress out in the sand dunes. I want to go to the Imperial Sand Dunes in California, and I want to make that crazy dress shot. So this is what it's really going to come down to. You've already got the camera gear. You have all. Don't rent or buy anything. You probably already have what will make it. You just need some kind of a medium wide angle lens, right? You don't need a special wide angle lens or an ultra wide angle lens. It's whatever wide angle lens you already have. If you are the one person left that doesn't have a wide angle lens, go rent one. It's going to cost you the airfare to California, depending on where you live. You might live in California, or you might want to drive there. If you're coming from the UK or from Europe, it's going to be a flight. Then you're going to rent a dress for what? $150? And you're going to pay the $6 to get in Imperial Sand Dunes park fee. Maybe it's $10. But the question isn't, can you make that shot? The question is, are you willing to invest the time and the energy? Now, if you sit there and say, Scott, oh, there's no way I'm going out to California to some sand dunes, you're never going to have shots like that. But if you really want to make that next level of shots, the difference between you and these other photographers, it probably isn't camera gear. It's literally probably they have the will to do it. They literally have the will to say, I'm going to invest in my images. I'm not going to invest in more gear. I've got good gear. I'm going to invest in making photos. And that may cost me $300 or $400 twice a year. I might have to spend $500 twice a year to go make the type of images I dream of making. But when you invest it and you take the time, that's the only way you're going to get to those images that make you go, wow. If you want to go to where Daniel Corden took that shot, it's going to take two things. It's going to take a flight to South Korea, and you're going to have to hike. Now, there are hiking trails to those trees. In fact, he wrote a whole thing about these special trees in South Korea and that the locals have made paths to the trees. You just you drive for 2 hours, he says, and then you hike up to where the trees are, and there's all these different shots. You're going to have to be willing to go to South Korea. Look, once you get on a plane, it can land anywhere as long as you get on the right plane. So if you're saying, I'm willing to go to Atlanta, but I'm not willing to go to South Korea, it's just longer in the plane. Take your iPad, watch a bunch of online videos. You can download our own online videos for the plane. Watch them, get out, hire a cab, drive out there. You know how easy it is with the internet to find out exactly where to go? My buddy Jeff always dreamed his whole life to literally hike the Himalayas. And he did it. He did it. He literally hiked it by himself, all alone, stayed in these little tiny huts. And every day he just took his camera out and hiked for like 6 to 12 miles all the way on this special path in the Himalayas. And I'm so impressed that he did it. He's just like, dude, I just did it. You know that old silly Nike thing, just do it? The people that just do it are going to come back with those shots. So the path is actually, I think, clearer than you think. You have the gear that you need. Now it comes down to sheer will. When all this is behind us and we're back to our regular lives and you're thinking, what kind of photos do I really want to make? You may not need to fly to South Korea. You may be able to make these in your own backyard. You may be able to make them in your own home studio. I know a lot of these things, like the ballerina shot, could have been shot in your own home. Some of these portraits, some of the stuff that that Chris Knight just did that we were looking at, you could do those in your own home. So one of the things that we want to do to help you on the next phase of this is we're going to give you a class to watch. It's one of our most popular classes. It's done by photographer Rick Salmon, a dear friend and a wonderful photographer and a terrific educator. He did a class on how to build a professional studio in your own home. This is how to take pro-level shots in your own home. We put this in our free tier that you can go and watch it. You don't need a credit card. You don't need to spend anything. It's our gift to you. You go watch it and you will love it. And Eric, where do they go? To kelby1.com/free?
Yep, they go to kelby1.com/free. There you'll have a link to sign up for a free membership. So you just go on there, create an account, you'll get a free membership, log into your dashboard, and then you can access that plus the other dozen classes plus that we have in that membership.
So there you go. That's our gift to you. We know you're stuck inside, and this is a great way to help you pass the time. And our
In fact,
goal,
I even
like
think
goal,
Scott, I even think they have the the commercial for the class that they could run as well if they
oh,
wanted to see
okay,
about
for
it.
Rick's class. All right.
Yeah.
Now we're not trying to sell you anything because you're getting this for free. So
Yep.
I said there would be no sales pitch. It isn't a sales pitch, but here's the class you can go watch for free. It's our gift to you. Go ahead and run that if you will, and let's take a look at that class.
Hey, I'm Rick Salmon. Thank you so much for joining me for my class here on Kelby One, how to turn your home into a professional studio. How cool is that? And you don't have to spend a fortune. I hope you learn a lot, and I hope you have a lot of fun, because I feel if you're not having fun, you're really doing something wrong. So I really hope you join me for my brand new class only on kelby1.com.
I love Rick.
There you go.
Rick is the best. If there's anyone that enjoys photography, like he just loves this stuff. It runs in his veins. Anyway, you guys have access to that class. Watch it. It's one of our most popular. You'll get a kick out of it. You'll learn a lot, and Rick is just a joy to listen to. So guys, when this is all behind us, take what we learned today. Watch this. Make the notes. You're going to learn a lot about yourself, a lot about your photography, and you're going to see what the path is for you to make the kind of images that you want to be making. Well, we wish you guys all very good
Now,
health.
Scott, so we have a bunch of questions. I don't know if we
Oh,
have,
you want to
if
answer
you
those?
want to
Yeah,
stick
we're only
around
over
and just
by
answer
half an hour.
questions. Huh? Was that?
Yeah, let's take some questions, and then if we have questions that we don't get to, you can put them in on my Facebook page, facebook.com/skelby. I'll go back in there and check and try to answer as many as I can.
Yeah.
In the meantime, what do you got, Mr. Kuna?
Yeah, big thing. A lot of people are loving it. You know, some comments. Marsha was saying, I never thought about analyzing my images before. This is very informative. Christy was saying, wow, amazing, Scott. But she was also saying your Lightroom looks more organized than my Lightroom on my laptop. Maybe you could point her to organizational things that she could do.
I do. I've got a class. Is it in the free?
Yep, it is.
So I got a class for you. It's awesome. It is a system that I created for organizing your images. It is taught in universities and colleges and high schools around the world. It is called the SLIM system, which stands for the Simplified Lightroom Image Management System. It is super easy. You'll have no problem following it. And I literally get emails from people that say, I finally have my life back. Thank you so much. It's changed everything for me. There's a lot of people that their Lightroom life is a mess. This not only gets your Lightroom life organized, but it also gets your images backed up, and it's a whole system, and it's free. You can go to that same kelby1.com free and watch it.
Here, I'm in the free classes right now, and there it is right there. So I'm in the free classes, and there it is.
That's it.
Slim system.
So go check that out.
All these classes.
I think that you will find it really, really helpful to answer that question. Okay, next.
All right, so next we've got. Again, I think at the end of the webcast, people loved the wrap up of it. You know, just a lot of praise there. It's really helping people, so that's cool. One of the questions is from Not Your Average Photo Joe is asking, can I accomplish the wide angle look by taking multiple shots in a panorama?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you got to realize it will make your image wider, but it's not going to give you the look of wide angle. Like, it's not going to make the things lean back and give you that epicness that a wide angle lens does, especially when you shoot it down low. When you shoot down low, it makes even the smallest room look like really, really large. So you won't have the wide angle look. You will just have a wider photo. So, for example, once I went and I fixed the verticals, you know, in that room and made the walls straight, your image will look more like that. It's not going to have the wide angle epicness. But yeah, doing multiple shots would make it wider.
Okay. So someone was asking us one about, is that an Adobe font that's in your presentation?
I use two different fonts. Neither one of them are the Adobe font. One is Trebuchet, which is a Microsoft font, right? And the other is Kazuko Pro, which is one that came with a template I bought years ago, and it comes in nice different weights, but it's Kazuko, Kudzuko Pro, and I believe it's a free font. You can just download. I think it said go download the free font Kazuko Pro, and the other one is Trebuchet, Trebuchet MS, which is from Microsoft.
Yeah, well, and I bring up that question because I know fonts are very important, especially to you. I've learned a lot
Yes,
from
they
you
are.
with fonts. You
I'm
even have a
very
class on
big on.
Kelby 1 on just typography. So,
Yep.
so another question from Jason from Texas asking, I have tons of inspirational images from different sources. What's a good way to keep them in one place so they're all together?
Use Pinterest. So sign up for a free Pinterest account and create a board and put those in there. Now, what's nice is you can make a secret board so you can have it so the public can't see it, right? So, because if you go on Pinterest and you post a bunch of things, other people will be able to see what you're collecting. But if you go, I just want this for my own reference, go to Pinterest, create a secret board, give it a name, and you'll be the only one that has access to it.
So Paul's asking, or kind of a general comment of not just other photographers, but following other artists as well. Do you do that as well? Like artists?
I do follow some digital artists that my wife has turned me on to. My wife is a traditional artist, but most of what I do follow is photographers.
What about
I
classic
there are people
painters
that
or anything like that?
no, I don't, not just a
No.
handful. There are people that can really make great use of going to an art gallery and transferring that to photography. I lack that particular skill. That is outside. I have to learn photography a different way. And I know there's a lot of photographers that talk about that, and I've tried it. I look at the photos, and I can look at the lighting, and like with a portrait, like you look at the old Dutch masters, and you can really admire the lighting. But I don't get out of it what other people get out of it because I'm like Gronk, the caveman photographer. Gronk want food. Gronk want, I'm not quite evolved yet.
So a question from Florin that we got was, any other landscape photographers other than Daniel Corden that you would follow? I could say,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but Mark Adamus is another one. I have that one pulled up on my screen. He's one that I follow a lot.
Yep.
And then, like I
I
was talking
follow him
about,
as well.
Rami's another one that I follow a lot. Another one is Chris Burkard.
I follow Chris as well.
Yep.
Chris
and,
is
I mean, his
very
stuff.
modern style. Very
Yes.
modern. I
So
like
that
his stuff.
it's very, and I think that's probably, if you look at the people that I tend to follow. Here's another one, Hillary Younger. I got to shoot with her once. It was pretty cool.
Hey, Eric, I'm going to
Again,
mention, I did if you go to my blog at scottkelby.com and
mhm.
search for the word Instagram, you will find a number of posts from me where I'm turning you on to different landscape photographers, travel. I've done a post like 10 photographers you should be following right now on Instagram, and you'll find my favorite people, my favorite landscape, my favorite travel. I've done them on my blog at scottkelby.com.
But that's the thing, yeah. There's definitely tons to follow. Check out that blog article, stuff like that. So, then a question from Carol. I would also like to know what ISO for the procedure shots you're using with the natural light.
100 ISO always.
Right.
I'm on a tripod.
And
I can leave that thing on all day long as I'm hand holding. I'm always at 100 ISO. That's the cleanest native ISO for my particular camera, which is a Canon EOS R mirrorless. So, but my other camera was a Canon 5D Mark IV. Before that, it was a Nikon D4, and that was 100 ISO. I'm a 100 ISO guy.
Yeah, and I think that's what's interesting about this topic, and I did write that down when I saw there's questions on the gear. A lot of questions still come in about the gear, but I think the one point that I would love that you made was that it's not about that. I almost think that photographers want it to be the f-stop, or they want it to be the ISO, or they want it to be the shutter speed, or the camera that somebody's using, because that's something that's just easy. And at the end of the day, what really makes the photo is the things you talked about today. It's, waking up 3 days in a row to get that sunrise because you had to wake up 3 days in a row because 2 sunrises were terrible. Or it's, making sure you have all the props and the sets and the location and the model shoot all planned out. And that's what makes a shot. But it'd be easier if we said, well, f11 at ISO 100 at 1/20th of a second, or
Yeah,
1/20th of a second.
there isn't a shot that I took that you couldn't make in auto mode. You can just
Yeah.
switch your camera to auto mode and make them. The only thing that would be bad is in auto mode, it would try to pop up your flash. Now, I'm lucky that I own a camera that doesn't have a pop-up flash. But if you have a camera that doesn't have a pop-up flash, you could shoot every shot I shot in auto mode. They'd look pretty much the same.
When we're talking about wide-angle lenses, one thing that somebody commented is that Joseph said, "I love my 8 to 16 Sigma ultra wide." And I got a deal on it. So that's the other thing to talk about, with people is like when you get into the wide angles, there's other manufacturers. Like I use a Tamron for my ultra wide.
I've shot that Tamron.
Yeah, and that's a great. I mean, that one is my Milky Way and my landscape lens because it gets down to 2.8. Yep. So I mean, there's definitely other options, and two, those lenses tend to be in the sub $1,000 versus the other ones. So
yep.
Brian's asking, what's your shirt? People want to know, what's your shirt?
Oh, it's Norman's Rare Guitars. So it is when I went to the NAMM show in January, back when we were allowed to travel. One of the things I wanted to do was I knew that Norman's Rare Guitars was in just outside of LA. I think they're in Thousand Oaks or something. They're close to right near half an hour from LAX. And so my buddy was with me. He's a guitar player. We were like, we got to go to Norman's. And so we went. That's what it is. And I bought like 4 shirts from there. Norman's Rare Guitars. That's great store. And Norman we met Norman. He's got a YouTube channel. That's where I found out about him from, was his YouTube channel.
And so then another question is, Darlene's asking, which ball head do you use for the Platypod?
I use a very inexpensive ball head. It is from a company called Oben, O-B-E-N. And in fact, B&H sells it. It is the BE117. And what I like about it is it's small and it's lightweight and it's easy, just really easy to use. It's almost like a perfect fit for the Platypod. And B&H actually sells a bundle with it where you get a Platypod and the BE117 as a bundle for a deal. So you can find that on B&H.
All right, cool. Then there was a comment from Simon, which Simon had an interesting comment, said, just this episode alone was worth my yearly subscription. So thanks, Scott and company.
Oh, so, you're welcome. That's cool. As an educator, you're making my day. Yep. Has anybody noticed that my hair is out of control? Has anyone mentioned that?
No, nobody's talked about your hair.
Cut in so long.
Your hair.
Because it's so fuzzy and crazy, but
it's part of the world we live in right now.
But you know what's cool, Eric? I was telling my wife about this last night. Like my wife's getting out, my hair's getting out. Like I'm starting to get like it's curling up in the back and stuff. Yep. She said, "Honey, don't worry. I ordered a hair trimming kit from Amazon, so I can't go to my hairdresser. I haven't left the house since March."
Exactly. So yeah, it's just something we got to deal with nowadays for a little bit. Diane had a comment, and I noticed that some people were talking about this, about when you're showing some of the church shots, like some of your stained glass was blown out, and basically saying the loss of detail in stained glass, would HDR help sort that out?
Yes, and right. I didn't go into that today, but normally if I'm shooting in a cathedral, I'm always shooting bracketed. I do shoot 3 frames, and if you look at my final image. Okay, looking at like my thing was. If you look at my final image, it was a bracketed shot. It was 2 stops under the normal shot, 2 stops over, and I put them into one inside of Lightroom. It looks the same. Like when you're done, it pretty much looks the same, but you have a greater tonal range, and so the windows aren't blown out, and you can pull back the highlights, and it looks good, and you can open up the shadows to 100, and you don't get noise. There's all kinds of advantages to shooting bracketed, but I was intentionally trying to not get into that stuff today because
that's why I wanted to bring it up. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I know that we shoot all the time together in those interiors, and you are always shooting. We're both
bracketed when I'm indoors.
Yeah.
And so what you saw when I did that today was just a normal exposure.
Yeah.
But if you look at the final image, you'll notice the stained glass windows look great. That's because it was 3 exposures.
Yeah, and that's what Neville was saying. Beautiful church composition was perfect. Talking about that stuff. So
yeah, but you know what, Eric? Seriously, if you were there, right? You walk down the aisle of the church. You have a wide-angle lens and a tripod. What? You set up the tripod, aim it that way, and click. Anybody would have got the same shot. I don't want to take credit for well, thank you. It was my interpretation of the shot. It was quite amazing. You walk in the door and it's right there in front of you. The only thing I can take credit for is getting down low. That's it.
But we've shot before many times before in this, and while I agree to 100%, I think what it is that a lot of people will do is move too quickly. We tend to sit down, look at the shot, and say, "Well, we wish it was 10 degrees higher." So then we'll pop it up a little bit.
We're a little picky about it.
Yeah. So I mean, you kind of do find that spot, but then part of getting that composition is just kind of working out a little bit once you get there, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe. But you're right, you could walk in, get the shot, get out. But we tend to just kind of camp out and then kind of look at the back of the camera and go, we'll
spend. What do you think, Eric? What were you, a half an hour in the church?
Half an hour. When we went to that New York, that church in New York that was talking about that Saint John the Divine, I think it is.
Yeah.
That one was incredible. I think we were there a half an hour, but we got really great shots out of that. But most of the locations, you're 5 minutes kind of in that location, just kind of, maybe we want to be near the insignia. Maybe we want to be a little farther back, and we kind of figure out the sweet spot.
Yeah, and you wind up taking a bunch of shots that look like crud, and you only show the good ones.
One.
Yeah, but I think I showed 2 shots, one going one way and one going the other. So it was one shot of the front of the church and one shot of the back of the church. How many shots did I take in a half hour? Bracketed 150. How many did I show today? One going forward, one going back. That's it.
But that church was so cool because it had all those break-off rooms too around it, which were little mini churches.
Is a treasure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we should wrap up, but we've gone way over. I mean, we'll jump into the chat if you got any questions. But
6 minutes over, we did run over. It's okay. It's not like we had something else to do.
Yep, exactly. So
this is it. Now we can have a lunch break and stuff.
Exactly. Well, so we got the grid later on this week. So that's on Wednesday. We're gonna be doing it the same way. And then again, recapping, you can sign up for that free class, free membership over at kelby1.com/free, and get in there. And that's about it, right?
All right. Yep. I want to thank Jason and Ron who helped us put all this together for our remote broadcasts. I want to thank Eric for being patient all this weekend while I set up lighting and cameras and all. And I took over my wife's. She has a little art studio and she let me take it over. And there's so much stuff in this room now that I told her I'm going to move. I'm going to tear this all down today and move to another part of the house. So when you see us on the grid, I'll be sitting somewhere else because I just can't do this to her. There's acoustic panels and I've taken off all of her stuff. It's not right.
Great though. Not right. It looks great. I mean, but if they would have saw where we started, where we ended.
Eric helped me immeasurably because we all have to do all this separately. Eric can't go, let me come over to your house and set up the lights, which is what I would have liked. But no, he had to do it all remote, and it's been a thing. But we got it, and we're so glad that you guys tuned in today. And Eric, thank you very much for moderating and helping me get to all this and helping me tomorrow when I call and say, okay, Eric, I'm in a new part of my house.
Do this again.
Let's get the lighting done. But also thanks to all of you. Stay healthy, wash your hands, stay the heck away from everybody. We're going to get through this. And when we do, because we're taking this time to do all those things like organize our images and back up and really think and study our photography, when this is over, we're all going to be set up for success. So the most important thing is that you stay healthy so we can move on to that next level. Thank you guys. Thank you, Eric. Thanks to Ron and Jason, and we will see you guys 4 p.m. Eastern Time live on the grid where we'll be talking about something. Maybe, is it time for blind photo critiques?
I think we're getting close to that moment, so we could probably do critiques this week.
Yeah, let's do photo critiques. The photo critiques are fun. All right, so we'll be sending out a link if you follow us on Kelby1 or on any of ours. We'll send you a link where to submit 3 of your best photos, and Eric and I will take a look at them. We'll give you our honest take on them and try to help push you for a little further down the path. All right, take
There we
care,
go. everybody. Yep, see ya.